Hey everybody, it's Luke with Woodard Marine. I just wanted to talk with you today about picking out a bait caster reel for you if that's something that you think you want to get into. If you've maybe been fishing for a couple of years and you've been using spinning reel, which is kind of your traditional way of fishing, and you wanted to try something out a little bit different. I think they're a little more comfortable in the hand, but they can be a little bit trickier to use, and the options for picking them out can be overwhelming because there's a lot of them. So I picked out 4 that are kind of going to start with a budget option, something kind of in the middle with a slight difference between these two, but more or less the same. And then over here, we have your more expensive option. So we'll start at the lower end. This is a reel that's made by Quantum. It's, for just the reel, I'd say it's probably right around 30, maybe 40 bucks, something like that. It's good. It's still pretty smooth. It's solid. You can feel it. The big thing with these is that it does have a braking system there. You can see it's magnets. You just twist that and pull that off and you can see there's magnets in there, and then it has a dial that goes from 1 to 10, and that is how you set how much resistance that you would like. So this is something that it's going to take a little more practice to get used to it with this, because the braking system is not as advanced as potentially something else, but it will get the job done. You can still catch fish with it. I still use this reel all the time. Your next option is going to be coming from Shimano. They have the Curado and then the Curado DC. So we'll start out with the normal Curado, which is going to bring you in right around 175, somewhere in that range. And this is a pin brake system. So when you pop that side plate off, you see that you will have these 4 little white tabs. When the tabs are up, it means the brakes are disengaged. So that's going to be the spool is free spinning. It'd be very easy to backlash then. So what you want to do is put 1 and 2 down, and you have to make sure that you go across from each other. And if that's still backlashing on you, then you can put those down and have all 4 down. Just make sure that whatever is done on one side is done on the other. Otherwise it'll be unbalanced. Now your second option for the Curado line is DC, and what DC stands for is digital control. So the spool in this is metal, obviously, and when you cast and the line goes out, that's going to spin. So as that's spinning, it's rubbing on magnets in there, which is going to create the electricity for the computer chip to run. And that computer chip is going to be monitoring that spool speed 1,000 times a second and applying the brakes automatically as needed. So when you cast that, the reel will do most of the work, and you shouldn't backlash it anywhere near as much, which may sound like a really good thing. One thing I will say is that if you learn how to cast on a lower end reel, when you move to a higher end reel, it'll come a lot easier to you, and you won't be necessarily relying on the technology to do that. Another thing I'd like to add with this is please do not feel like this is something that you absolutely need to go out and buy, because they are expensive. It's a cool thing to have. It's, I don't want to say a gimmick, but it's leaning towards that way for sure. But it's still a great option. Will definitely do the job for you. And now we come to the Shimano Curado K. This is a very, very lightweight reel. It's all one piece cast, like it's all casted in one piece, which is going to make it a very sensitive reel. You can feel a lot. You can almost feel the bite in the reel when it's attached to the rod because of that. It's extremely buttery smooth. It's got multiple more bearings than all these other options, which is why it's so smooth. This is going to run you close to $300, somewhere up in there in that range, but it does have a ton of drag. If you were to put a little bit heavier line on here, you could land, if you want, you could take it out in the salt water. You could land a fish up to 90 pounds with this reel, even though it's in that little package. So they all have different braking systems. So the next time you see me, we'll be down on the water going over how to use those braking systems and how to set up your reel. So this is the Quantum, the first reel. So there's a general rule for bait casters. This knob right here is called the cast control knob. So you're going to want to tighten that just to the point that your bait, which is right there, and you click your bail button down, which is right there, that your bait just barely falls. So right now it's tight, I'm loosening it, now it's starting to go. So now you know you've got that set. You set your magnets, because you're just starting out. to all the way up, which is your dial on the side. And then you're going to want about foot and a half hanging out of the end of the tip. You're going to put your bail down, put your thumb on the spool, and just really nice and easy cast it out, and then stop it with your thumb when it hits the water. So that's how you set the Quantum up. That's any reel with a magnetic braking system. This is reel number 2, Shimano Curado, the non-digitally controlled. So again, you're going to want to set your cast control knob just to the point where your bait is able to fall when the bail is open. And with this, I have 2 pins turned on and 2 pins turned off. And again, what you're going to want to do is just open the bail and stop the spool with your thumb. Give it a really just nice and easy cast. Don't try to overdo it. And then go out, you stop it with your thumb when it hits the water, and you're ready to reel it back in for your next cast. This is the Shimano Curado 150 DC. DC for digital control. So this is the first reel that's going to be a little different in how you set it up. So the first thing you want to do is put your finger on your spool and wiggle it back and forth. And you can feel like there's a little play in there, and you can hear a click. So you want to tighten your cast control knob just tight enough to where that stops having play and it doesn't move, because that's where your electricity comes from. If it's spinning and there's a gap, it won't generate anything. All right, so now that that's set, the next thing you want to look at is this dial right here. It's got numbers on it, 1 through 4, with 1 setting for open if you want to take the plate off. So those correspond to different ability levels as well as different kinds of line. Number 4 is for if you're just starting out with bait casting and you want the most braking available. Number 2 is for braided line, which is what I have on, so that's what I am on. And number 3 is for fluorocarbon. Number 1 is supposed to be for if you want the bare minimum amount of braking. As someone who's pretty experienced with bait casting, I will tell you I do not use that. Every time I try to, I backlash. It is pretty much unusable. I would just ignore number 1. So now you're ready to cast, and just like all the others, you're going to press your bail open and stop the spool from spinning with your thumb. And then again, just nice and easy. And you can hear the computer working. That's what that whirring noise is. This is the Shimano Curado K. Again, we have our cast control knob, which we're going to want set just tight enough so that the bait just barely starts to move. Once we have that, we're ready to cast. It's pin controlled, so again, 2 on and 2 are off. And here I have it set on the resistance dial to 6. So again, about foot and a half of line let out from the tip. We're going to want to open that bail and stop that spool with our thumb. And again, nice and easy, and then stop it right as it hits the water. Then you reel it in and you're ready to make another cast. And another key difference with all bait casting reels as opposed to spinning is that you can adjust your drag with this star gear as you're fighting the fish. Whether with a spinning reel you have to take your hand off and then adjust it, and then you're not able to reel while adjusting the drag as you can on a bait caster.